Welcome to Movies, Music and More, a podcast that explores, breaks down and analyses the music of modern day media. I'm James.
I'm Andy.
And this is Lassie. Join us, your guides, as we dive into some of the greatest scores of the century and uncover the secrets and genius hidden within.
Hello and welcome to Movies, Music and More.
I'm doing the thing. I want to do it.
You'll know if you heard our last episode, Mandalorian Part 3, that Andy is banned for life from introducing our episodes. Yes, that's your punishment. Appropriate punishment, I think, for the bullying you did last episode.
Appropriate.
But anyway, today
Over the top.
Today it's very exciting because we're doing a bit of something different. We're doing a mini episode today. Andy, do you want to tell us a little bit about, what is this mini episode, One Track Wonder?
So in this mini episode, we are taking one track from one movie, and it has to be a good track. If it's not a good track, we'll kick you out the door.
Yeah, it has to be a good track if we're just picking one. So yeah, effectively what we're doing is, like, when we're putting together this podcast, we talk about lots of different movies and games and TV shows that we could do as episodes. And often what happens, I think, is we go like, oh, what about this movie? And because there's one track in it that we absolutely love, and then we kind of listen to the whole thing and go like, oh, yeah, like it is good, but maybe it isn't enough for us to really deep dive into for a full episode. So this is kind of the chance for us to have a listen to some of those tracks that we really love, a one-track wonder, and then perhaps not go fully into depth on the whole score because the rest perhaps is a bit more average and just kind of doing the job it needs to do. And it also means we get to cover a few more scores, which is good in some ways because there's so many scores we'd like to talk about, but there's just literally not enough time in life to get through them all. Anyway, let's start with Andy's pick for today. We've each chosen one track from one movie. What is your pick today, Andy?
I'm doing the Godzilla 2014 movie.
Yeah, I'm bracing myself because Godzilla is one of Andy's obsessions. So dare I say it, could you tell us a little bit about this movie and why you picked this track?
Well, first of all, it is Godzilla's 70th anniversary this year.
Oh.
So he has been around a lot. And this movie is also 10 years old this year too.
And I assume, as someone that doesn't actually know much about Godzilla, it's one of the film franchises that I've never gotten into particularly. There's tons of Godzilla movies, aren't there? Why'd you pick this one?
So, mostly because I couldn't find any of the other Godzilla movies records.
Yeah, I imagine they are hard to find, being mostly Japanese movies, aren't they?
Yeah, pretty much all of them are Japanese movies. And I chose this one because I love the opening titles. Like, it really just screamed to me, oh, something big is coming, and you do not want to be in its way.
Yeah, I've got to agree. So that the track we're about to have a listen to is the track that plays over the first couple of minutes of the film. It's the opening credits, and they actually use the credits in this film really well. Like some movies, they kind of just put some vague photos up and have, the director's names and things. Whereas this, it's kind of a montage of like redacted files and like newspaper clippings and like grainy footage of like things mentioning Godzilla and like conspiracies around Godzilla and things. It's actually really effective. I think it's I honestly think it's the best part of the movie.
I liked it when Godzilla destroyed one of the Mutos.
Yeah, the rest of the movie, because we obviously watched this together, I don't know. I'm not a huge fan of just the giant things attacking each other. But what I say, this opening track was awesome. And then the next 5 minutes where they were like, they still had the mystery around the monsters. Like you weren't seeing the monsters. They showed like some big bones of monsters and like they were building the mystery. That was great. The problem with any monster movie, I reckon, is as soon as you see the monster, it's not that scary anymore. And I reckon that's where it lost it for me. It was like within 10 minutes, we saw the first, what is it called, a Muto or something?
Yep.
Yeah, there's this other big monster that Godzilla versus, and it was like, from here it's just big monsters battling each other, which, if that's your thing, that's your thing.
That's my thing.
Yeah, that's your thing. But for me, this first couple of minutes was the best part of the movie. And actually, credit where credit's due is because it's actually really well done. And the music carries a lot of it. So let's have a listen to this track called
Godzilla.
Oh, actually, before we listen to the track, we should talk about the composer, because you've actually picked a really great composer in my books, at least. Alexandre Desplat.
Desplat.
Yeah, it's a French name, so excuse my pronunciation. But yeah, he's a French composer, and he's done lots and lots of films and lots of really quite famous films. It actually really surprised me though when you said let's have a listen to this Godzilla track. I was like, yeah, okay, it'll be like a big bombastic Hollywood composer, which he's certainly done lots of Hollywood films. But his music is actually much more known to be really intricate and delicate and beautiful. Which is not the words I'd use to describe Godzilla. So just to set the scene a little bit, just to kind of give this some context, this is the sort of music that I think Alexandre Desplat is best known for. Not to say he can't do other things. This movie itself is an example of that. But let's just have a quick listen. This is a little excerpt from The Danish Girl. And then there's another quick excerpt from The Grand Budapest Hotel, which is he's well known for his collaborations with the director Wes Anderson. So that was The Danish Girl, and that's the sort of music I associate with this composer. Lots of these rhythmic, beautiful instruments, lots of lines over top of each other. And then here was the other example, which is more his kind of quirky music for the Wes Anderson films. The sort of music you would, or the sort of composer you imagine would be chosen for Godzilla?
Nope.
Yeah, it's just, again, he's a very capable composer, as we'll hear. He actually does a fantastic job, and he has done a wide range of things, but just that's more his real
Specialty.
Yeah, his specialty, his real style that I guess I associate with him. So when you were like, let's do Godzilla, and it's the composer, I was like, what? But without further ado, let's hear this track, Godzilla. I've got to say that last bit sounds like a kettle going off to me. Like the high squeaky sound. It's like, oh, the tea's done. But the rest of that track is pretty intense and Godzilla-esque. It's pretty epic. Yeah, where do we start with it? To start with, you get this little, or not little, particularly because Desplat took an orchestra and then made it even bigger. So there's a huge amount of sound and instruments going on in this cue. But it starts with this low laboring string bass line. And the chords on top of it are all minor chords. We've talked about minor being a bit darker. So we're in a very much almost like gothically dark start. And the low laboring string bass line, it reminds me of like Godzilla just like slowly slithering up from his sleep sort of thing. Like this super low, broad sound gives it almost musically tells you the size of Godzilla. Like every one of his movements is huge.
Now, for all of the like big kettle sound,
At the end.
I think that it actually kind of sounds like there's this Godzilla TV show called Monarch, and that is set after this movie,
Oh, okay.
and it actually showcases like what the government first did when they found Godzilla was real, and they blew a nuclear bomb up in his face, and I think that might have been the sound of a nuclear bomb dropping on him.
That high pitched
Yeah.
sound, Ooh, or is that? It could almost be like his scream or something as well. I don't know. Yeah, in terms of the music, I have no idea what that sound actually is. Like I don't know what instrument or whether it's a synth or what. Really unusual sound, but yeah, it adds this like screaming quality at the end, or yeah, maybe like a bomb dropping sort of sound. Yeah,
I mean, like he wasn't happy that he got a nuclear bomb blown up in front of his face, but he survived.
yeah, that's in the little montage at the start. It adds a lot of intrigue. One little thing that happens at the start, which is quite a small detail, but I think it's quite interesting, is we just get these strings come in with this kind of repetitive rhythm on the harmony. Let's just isolate that for a moment. Yeah, and it's this small detail, but I want to bring it up because it's such a common Hollywood technique just to kind of bring a little bit of forward energy and layers to the music, and very much a 2000s onwards technique. To give a quick example of like how common it is, I'm just going to pull up the Batman Begins soundtrack by Hans Zimmer, because Hans Zimmer, in so many ways, has set the tone for our current Hollywood scoring. And these Batman films are really iconic of that. Have a listen. I literally pulled this out the other day and just clicked on the first 3 tracks, and on each one, I instantly got this. So it's kind of a small accompaniment detail, but I just thought it's just so iconic of Hollywood's scores. I thought I'd bring it up. So it's no surprise that it's in this Godzilla soundtrack, which is so very Hollywood and blockbustery.
Now, here's another fact about Godzilla. This was not the first time Americans have tried making a Godzilla movie of their own.
Yeah, I read this was the second time they tried. Is that right?
Yep. So the second time, they did very well. The first time, well,
Did it not go so well? I don't know
it was
anything
made
about
in
the first one.
1998,
Mm.
and unlike all the other Japanese Godzilla movies, except for like the latest ones,
Mm.
they used costume-made Godzillas. So every
Oh.
Godzilla you saw on screen,
Yeah.
the first couple of 30 movies,
Mm.
the Godzillas were all costumes.
Oh, right. Okay.
So the Americans decided, let's not do that. Let's make it
CGI.
CGI.
Yeah.
And for
Which-
1998,
Yeah, it's pretty early for CGI, really.
it interacted with it quite well,
Mm.
but I looked at the design and it was too dinosaurs.
Okay, yeah.
Like,
Please don't make me watch that movie.
I'm not gonna make you watch that horrible movie. No way.
Oh, yeah. Well, I thought Godzilla looked pretty good in this movie.
The Godzilla in this one was very good. That one, it looked too much a dinosaur. Like the fans didn't like it.
Just Jurassic Park.
It was just very Jurassic Park.
Yeah.
It was just very much Tyrannosaurus Rex. Even the way it walked was like a Tyrannosaurus Rex.
Yeah. He's more of like a chunky lizard.
Yeah,
That's how I imagine him.
They did fix that, but fans will never forgive the Americans for that.
Yeah.
Never.
Well, yeah, I mean, again, I reckon this score does a lot for this film as well. I think if it didn't have as good a score, it might not be as good. But there's just one more detail I think to really bring out in this cue you've brought us. Because there's a few cool little melodies and things that happen, but they're not. It's not like other scores where it's really theme driven that we've talked about a lot, where there's lots of themes to the movie. Like there is a little bit of a melody in that track we listened to that is used once or twice throughout the movie, but it's not really about the themes. It's about all the colors and the different instruments and the lines going on. There's one cool bit I'd like to listen to in that track again, which it's another time-based thing. We talk a lot in this podcast about, triple versus duple or normal time. There's this one cool spot where each bar of music or each measure of music, it's swapping between a normal old bar that's got 4 beats in it and another bar that's got 2 normal beats and a triple beat in it.
Mm-hmm.
So it kind of goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, and what that does is it throws off the beat for a moment, and it feels to me like it's like Godzilla marching along and then taking a moment to just like squish some people and then move on, sort of thing. Like it's that lumbering Godzilla type feeling. I'm actually going to play the track and count the beats at the top so we can hear it clearly. 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. Squish some people. 1, 2, 3, 4. So you can hear it's just this like by breaking the pattern of the beat, it gives it this lumbering giant monster feel to it, which is pretty cool. Yeah, good track. Nice pick.
Before we finish, I have 2 things to say. One, congratulations, Godzilla, your 70th anniversary. That is an accomplishment.
Good on you, Godzilla. Yep.
You're older than my mum.
Mummy's not going to be pleased to hear that comment.
She is
Andy.
not.
Oh.
I'm just gonna hope that I'll be out of the house for the time.
Yeah, start
Running.
being angelic. Yeah, I'll start running. Yeah, really good pick for you with that Godzilla track. And I think even though we've just picked this track, it's not to say that the rest of the album isn't good. The rest of the album is actually, I'd encourage you to listen to it because it's got really interesting parts and full-on orchestral music. It was just one that we felt like this track really stood out, and the rest perhaps we would spend our time looking at other scores. Over to me, my pick.
Can we not?
Yeah, no, what? It's my turn. The track that I'm going to pick is called Fairy Tale, and it's from Shrek.
We all love Shrek.
We all love Shrek. In fact,
if there's a person out there who hasn't watched Shrek, I will tell them you have not fulfilled your life. Because I have watched Shrek a couple of 100 times. And
Yeah.
I still love it to this day.
Shrek has been a huge high rotation movie in our household. Like when me and our older sister Ash were little, we were before you two were around. We would recite the whole of Shrek on car rides, like on long road trips. We knew the movie that well. We'd just recite the whole script to each other, being different characters. So we knew this movie inside out. And as far as score goes, it's got a lot of hit pop songs in it, which makes sense because this whole movie is like a parody.
The main one is All Star.
Yeah, by Smash Mouth. Yeah.
Somebody once told me the world is gonna roll me. I ain't the sharpest tool in the shed.
Amen. Couldn't say any truer, Andy.
What?
What were we saying? Oh, like that Shrek. It very much is a parody of classic Disney fairy tale, particularly fairy tale princess stories. And you've got these pop songs interweaved, but you've also got a score, and it's by John Powell and Harry Gregson Williams, who we've already talked about, the Chicken Run.
Chicken Run.
This was they had this short little era where they did 3 animated films for DreamWorks. There was Ants, and then Chicken Run, and then Shrek is their last one.
Shrek.
Yeah, and it's their last collaboration, I believe. I think after that, they kind of went their own ways. And the score, I wouldn't say it's on the same level as Chicken Run. I think Chicken Run is the best of that 3. But it's got a couple of tracks that are really good. And then the rest of the tracks do their job. That's fine. But this first track called Fairy Tale, it just does such a good job of being the once upon a time part of the story. And it also happens at the start of the film. Very different to Godzilla, but in this case, it's got that classic Disney opening that had then like Snow White and Sleeping Beauty, where it's got the fairy tale book that opens up and Shrek's reading. Literally, once upon a time there was a princess in a castle. Oh, sorry, once upon a time there was a princess in a castle. Oh, that's the worst Scottish accent ever. But
Scottish people will be mad at you now, so you better hide in your
our
house
Scottish
now.
listeners. But yeah, it's got this opening scene that has this beautiful fairy tale music, which is then abruptly stopped because like Shrek goes like, "What a load of," and then flushes the toilet and blah blah, like it's a joke. But let's have a listen to this track called Fairy Tale.
Welcome to do.
I hate you! Why did you do that? I thought you were checking the script! I'm not gonna play this.
That's the beautiful song I was talking about.
God's sakes.
No, it's not. That's just another track from Shrek, which is hilarious.
I hate
And I just got punked, Andy. You've been punked.
I did not expect that. I thought you were checking, like, something.
No. So, no, the actual track on the list is Fairy Tale, but I just wanted to get Andy with that little track, which is also from Shrek, which has got the little... Do you remember the little puppets that pop up at the tournament?
Remember that.
Yeah. All right. Getting serious now. Here's the actual Fairy Tale track. So it's a really lovely, nice track. I really like it. Yes, it's got that very peaceful but There's also like little bits of magic in there, I
Yeah,
think.
definitely.
Like that princess fairy tale, once upon a time in a magic place.
Blah blah blah.
Blah blah blah. And yeah, like an ogre or an onion, the music's got lots of layers to it. So first of all, we've got our time or our time meter, which is it's in 3. It's in triple time. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2.
The moment you said like an ogre or like an onion, the music has lots of layers. I felt my stomach turn.
Don't like onion.
No.
I don't like ogres. That's really rude. I was going to say this. This is a great film for us to discuss as well because I often think of you as like the donkey to my Shrek.
I'm not gonna laugh. I am not gonna laugh. I will not.
Anyway, I was saying it's got this triple time, which gives it this, as we talked about, a dance-like, waltz-like feel. And then combined with that, the way the melody and the accompaniment is shaped, it's got this lilting up and down shape. So up, back down, going back up, back down. It keeps doing this up and down flowing wave-like motion, which just makes it a really nice contour to listen to. The other big thing with this as well is the use of instruments. So, he didn't pick just, your average, I don't know, string quartet or something. He's used very specific sounds that sound a lot like a music box to me. Like, those little boxes that, as little kids you might have, you open up and it might have a little ballerina in it that then plays a little song. It's got that quality to it. It uses harps, which are like, if you've never seen a harp before, it's like this huge string instrument that you pluck the strings. It uses a little bit of piano, uses these high chime-like percussion instrument. I think it might be crotales, I'm not sure. But we talked about in Harry Potter that those high, twinkly sort of sounds sound quite a bit like magic. And there's these 2 instruments I really want to focus on, or little sounds that are used. One is the wind chimes, which is basically like a set of bars, like you'd have wind chimes outside, but you've got this set of them so that when you move across, they make this connected sound. It sounds a bit like this. So it sounds like you hear that tinkling, sparkly, magic-y sort of sound. It's the sort of thing you'd use in like a kids' TV show. Someone's waving a magic wand or something. And the other sound that's in there is what we call a harp glissando, which is where the harp, they just like strum across all the strings and it sounds like this. Again, it's the sort of thing you hear in like kids' TV shows when it's like transitioning from one magic place to another or something. It's very, there's some magic in there, I feel like. And let's just have...
Again, I found inner peace.
Yeah, and they're very peaceful, nice sounds. So let's have a quick listen to the fairy tale track again and hear how at a couple of points it uses both that harp glissando and the wind chimes to give it this like shimmer and magic. So hopefully you heard at the end of the phrases, those harp glissandos and wind chimes. One last thing with this track, which I think is interesting, is that the chords are minor chords. It's all in a minor key. We've talked about minor chords before. What do we tend to say that minor kind of evokes? What sort of sound?
Dark. Very dark.
Yeah, usually dark, mysterious, intense. But this just goes to show that take some really instruments that aren't really dark, they're much lighter and magical, and put all these other elements in there. Minor chords don't necessarily have to be dark and intense. They can kind of be this beautiful, lush, it has depth to the sound. So yeah, compared to Godzilla, which was also minor chords, this is minor chords as well, just different. which is kind of interesting that you can get such different sounds from the same types of chords. Yeah. So that's Fairy Tale from Shrek and Godzilla from Godzilla. So I hope you enjoyed our mini episode.
Can I do the closing?
Sure.
So I hope you enjoyed our mini episode. Hopefully you do listen to our next couple of episodes. If you want to know what the clues were, go back and listen to the end of The Mandalorian Part 3. And we will see you next time, where you will hear an incredibly handsome boy and an ugly grown-up.
Wow.
See you
Thanks,
next
Andrew.
time.
Well, just before we finish up,
no,
thanks for that.
we're gonna finish
just before we
it up.
finish up, the other great thing about doing these mini episodes is that if you, as a listener, have like one score that you really love or one track from one score you really love, send it in to us. Yes. So you can use our social media on Facebook or Instagram, or you can use our email, which I believe is on the info for our podcast.
We'll also answer questions that you'll send it to.
Yeah, anytime. But particularly if you have some track that you've been thinking like, this would be awesome, but maybe not the whole score or something, I'd like to hear more about how this track works, send it in to us. And then, yeah, this amazingly handsome adult and this little boy will talk about it. See you next time.